Welcome, exiles! Today I present to you a budget-friendly option for my one-with-nothing Cyclone Gladiator. Now, the idea for this video is because I got a lot of comments asking me, can I make this be a budget-friendly build? So what we did is I opened up a spreadsheet, went on a live stream and tracked the prices of the items that I bought. So we bought exactly 100 chaos, actually 99 chaos. Maybe I spent like chaos on some alterations and things like that for crafting potions, but it's around 100 chaos. And what does this build do? Well, it can do all tiers of map. If it's not delirious. If it's delirious, then a tier 15 and 16 map don't feel as good because you're not clearing them as fast and you won't get enough simulacrum splinters from them. So like your optimal map tier for farming is tier 14, and there you can farm something like a tropical island, which is pretty good layout, and get 30-40 simulacrum splinters, which is pretty good. I mean, you can farm up a lot of currency this way. And if you throw in missions on top of it or some other like form of farming currency, you can definitely farm up currency for that more expensive variant that I play. So it's a good way to transition into the other build. One thing to note, the skill tree is quite different from my regular build, so you will need to respec it once you decide to go for full beefy variant of the build. Now, the POE for this and for the other build are in a forum thread in the description, so you can find all the information in that forum thread, and I will keep updating it as soon as I have something new, so you can check that out from time to time and get updates for the build. That way you can improve it. Also, if you figure out something how the build can be improved, though we pushed it pretty far, there isn't that much that can be done anymore, but if you figure out something interesting, please leave me a comment. I'm always happy to hear your suggestions to improve the build, and some of the comments helped me quite a lot to improve the build, and that's why I keep pushing these videos as an updates, because then you can also tell me what you figured out and we can include it in a build. And I think in like few days, probably, I have like few things to try out still, but in few days I think I will have the final beefy variant of the build and make a build guide explaining everything, including also this transition build as a budget option. I will include that in that final video, and then we can call it a build guide. Because up to this point I really didn't want to use that in the title of the video, because it's not final. Like, it's just thing that I'm trying out in the game, so it's not a build guide. As you can see here, I dropped like 35 splinters, pretty good. That was tier 14 tropical island there. Now what you're looking at is a tier 15 layer map. Here I managed to drop 16 simulacrum splinters, and we had delirium boss pop out. We managed to clear that too. So while you watch that, let me talk about like where did we spend the money. Once we're done with that, I'm going to show you the skill tree, explain why we picked everything, but it's pretty simple, and it's going to be a template that you can follow for any build actually, because it's, well, you need to grab as much life and resists because you don't have money to buy proper gear yet. So let's take a look where the money went. Okay, this is that spreadsheet that I was talking about, and the first thing that we have to buy is one with nothing small cluster jewel, which is going to enable this build to function. Without this, it's simply not one with nothing build. So what does one with nothing actually do? It's going to give you a keystone that is called a hollow palm technique. Once you allocate this, you're going to be counted as dual wielding while you're encumbered. Encumbered means you don't have weapons or gloves. Then while you are encumbered, you're going to get 60% more attack speed, which is ridiculous damage multiplier, even if we don't count like the other things that this thing does. So the other thing is 14 to 20 added physical damage per 10 dexterity while you're encumbered. So every dexterity you get is going to increase your damage by quite a bit. So this is dexterity stacking build, and even with like reasonable amount of dexterity, like 1k dexterity, it still does a lot of damage. If you can push it to 2k dexterity, it goes into some serious ridiculousness, but that requires some really expensive gear. We're keeping it at around 1k for this variant. Now the next thing where I spend a lot of money is Astromantis Onyx Amulet. This amulet just gives you a lot of attributes, that is strength, dexterity and intelligence. This way you're not starved for any particular stat. You have enough intelligence, you have enough strength, you have enough everything if you're wearing this amulet. And it also gives you a ton of dexterity, and it's probably the best source for dexterity early on. Now I spent a bit more on it. You can buy ones that are cheaper, but I looked at the one that gives more stats. You can also divine them, but divine orbs are very expensive at this time in League, so it's better to actually buy one that has decent stats. Now the next thing is Cyclopean Coil. This thing is ridiculous. It gives you 50% increased attributes, lots of life, and you cannot be frozen. I haven't been able to replace this thing in my regular build. That's not budgety. It's still that good and I still use it. You might be able to replace it with some rare belt, crafted one for like mirror tier currency, but even then I would still rather take double corrupted Cyclopean Coil with some good implicits than that. As a tier 16 I decided to run tower map because this build is really good in close quarters kind of maps, and this map has a really linear layout, that way you can drop a lot of simulacrum splinters, but I don't simply have enough damage to clear it fast enough, and I didn't drop that many simulacrum splinters. Now let's continue with our items. We're going to get back to that 6th link in a moment. The last unique item that we have is Devoto's Devotion, and has been chosen because it gives you additional movement speed, which feels really nice, and it's not an expensive item at this point. However, you are going to have a hard time getting one with cyclone damage on it or cyclone attack speed. Those are really expensive, so in the end build you probably want to switch it for a rare item with cyclone damage, then go back to Devotos when you have money to afford it, because with so many uniques in a build it's really hard to cap the resist. But at this point I could cap my resist because I wasn't using Garukan's flights, which are used in the end game variant. So this item is really good because it gives you dexterity, reduced global physical damage taken, which is pretty good for survivability, increased attack damage, increased armor evasion is pretty good, some chaos res, and increased movement speed. That movement speed is going to feel really nice, and that's why I went and bought it. That meant I had to kinda get a bit more res on other, like on rings and on boots, but still it was doable on 100 chaos budget, so I decided to get it. Now the next thing that you might want to look in as an alternative to Devoto's Devotion is the Bringer Frame. This helmet is pretty interesting. It's going to disable your chest armor, so that way you save money by not buying a chest armor, and socketed gems that you socket in, so your Cyclone is going to be supported by level 18 melee physical damage, faster attacks, and level 18 blind, which is pretty good. Then you also get 6% chance to block attack damage, which is pretty good for our build, and it's getting any block chance anywhere is kinda really hard because we are dual wielding and not using shields. Then adds a bit of fizz damage, really not important. Increase armor and evasion, give you ridiculous amount of life, which is going to feel pretty nice. And then you have 20% chance to get an endurance charge when you block. So this is definitely something that you should look into if you want to save additional, like, I don't know, 10-15 kills. The one thing that I don't like about this is that you will need to level up additional 2 gems once you switch to a 6-link. If you start with a 6-link, you are already going to be leveling the gems that you're going to be using for the end game. But on the other hand, this could have given me maybe up to 5k life, and additional chance to block. It's hard to kinda argue against this item. I don't know why I didn't include it in, like, on live stream. I kind of forgot about it and nobody, like, reminded me. But yeah, it's pretty good item. I just remembered it once I started doing the video that, yeah, I'm a dumbass, I could have used that. So if you want to save some money, do that one. Okay, I've explained quite a bit of items, but I still have a few, so we'll have to jump into POE and in-game so we can take a look at those items. I wanted to go over the unique items here. We still have 2 unique flasks, but I will explain them once we are in-game. Either way, I wanted to show you tier 14, 15 and 16 maps. This is tier 16 boss fight on tower map. As you can see, it's not quite yet there in terms of damage. You still need some time to clear this. This means if you want to go fight some bosses like Elder, Uber Elder, Cyrus, Shaper, you name it, it's going to be a bit tough on this budget, but and there are probably some boss killers builds that can do it on way less of a budget. You could, like, go Frenzies instead of Cyclone for, like, more damage on a single target. That is something if you kind of want to make it a boss killer. But just know that you need to invest more money if you want to make it crazy. On 100 kills, this is what it can do. It can clear tier 16. On a boss fight of tier 16 map, you need just a bit time to actually clear it. Now we'll jump into POE and take a look what we have. Okay, we are in Path of Building. I'm using the community version, so this is what I recommend you get to. You won't be able to use the regular one with this paste bin. You can find the link in the description. It's pretty simple process that just download the zipped version, unzip and run it. It's really simple. If you still have some questions about Path of Building and this is like the first time you're using it, I will also include the video explaining how to use the Path of Building and also how to download and install it. So if you're having some troubles, check out that video. That way you can learn how to use it. It's a pretty fun tool to have under your belt. So what we have here is the end game skill tree on level 90. I left it there because I assume that you will be able to farm up enough currency and switch to that other variant of the build that's more expensive later on. So we're keeping it there. In terms of how much damage it does 1 to 2 million damage depending on the scenario. The peak damage is around 2 billion. We got the 2 points using Lunaris Shikari for poison immunity, and let me quickly explain to you this damage because it's going to confuse some people that don't know about configuration tab. On configuration tab I'm using Frenzies because I have Blood Rage. Challenger charges are from the Ascendancy. Have you been hit recently? That's almost always going to be up. And block hits from unique enemy, this is only for bossing scenarios, so on maps you won't have that. Also the stances, you're going to be switching between stances, between Sand and Blood stance depending on the scenario. Most of the time you will probably, once you are fighting some beefier enemies, you're going to be in Blood stance, but if you're mapping and hitting just regular mobs, you want to switch to Sand stance. So this is the configuration what I have enabled, and you should play around with this. Also the flasks are enabled too. So depending if you don't have like flash charges for your lions, you're going to do less damage. So it's not like always going to be 2 million damage, just saying, so you don't get a wrong idea there. Now for the skill tree, once you start leveling, you want to start their like skill trees here. I haven't made as many as I made last time because I don't think it's actually necessary. Level 13 is just like rush this and socket in hole pump technique. From that point on, you're going to be doing lots and lots more damage than you would normally. Then the next skill tree is for level 26. Redo the whole thing here because you will like have to get this for the end game, and better to redo it early on, so you might have to kind of level up a few more levels over 26 to have enough points to actually respec everything. And you would probably get enough respec points from quests, hopefully. If not, you can like push bit later on, respec it bit later on, I guess. Then what you get is level 35. You want to get this dexterity here. It's pretty important. Get a bit of life here, but dexterity is going to be your friend during the leveling because it's going to give you more damage. Also going to help with your hit chance so you don't miss, though if you hit something you're going to one-shot it pretty much. Here I also assume that on level 35 you'll probably want to do your first ascendancy, grab challenger, arena challenger for extra movement speed so you can level up much quicker. Challenger charges work that way that you gain them. If you're hitting rare or unique enemies in blood stance, you're going to get a challenger charge. If you want to gain a challenger charge while in sand stance, you're supposed to be hitting just any enemy, but you have to kill them. So gain a challenger charge when you kill an enemy while in sand stance. So sand stance is more for like going through maps, and you also blind them in sand stance, making it better for surviving. So that's what you get on level 35. Then it's not actually level 35, I should say 35 points. That's actually on a level 12, which is ridiculous. This is like really early on. So these are not levels, but actually because you get it's not like calculated properly here, so I should say points there, not levels, because you gain points through quests, and we cannot like say for sure on what level you have how many points until you kind of finish the campaign. Maybe you skip some quests that actually gives you points, so watch out for that. Either way, for next time around I will say like how many points, not levels. Either way, we went through this one and this one, assuming that on level 35, because that's when you can actually do the lab, and not sure how many points you actually have then, depending on what quest you did. You managed to do like first ascendancy, then we do like on level 69, you kind of progress your skill tree either way you want. The most important things are dexterity and getting some life resists. The nice things to grab along the way are impales. They're going to help you a lot with killing bosses, because impales are more damage, they stack, like I cannot explain it here in the video, it's going to end up being a really long video, but research impales so you know how they work, and you have to use community path of building to actually see the impale damage. That's why we're using it. There are two cluster nodes here and here. Grab that. Another fluid motion here so you can transform this strength into dexterity. So you grab as much as you can. Life, this like additional resist is really nice. Everything that's going to help you survive, because you have to keep the resists or it's not really going to work. So this is like still not kept because we haven't grabbed everything, and this is you might haven't yet like finished the acts, I'm not sure, but once you start mapping you really want your resist caps, so you should prioritize nodes that give you resist, like this here gives resist, You have some resists here that I actually didn't grab. There are some resists here. If you cannot like cap it through your items, then grab it on a skill tree as a temporary solution. And finally we have the Endgame one, which basically grabs the whole Scion Will for extra life. This means any life you get on gear is going to feel pretty nice. We grab all the like life nodes here, everything that's going to help with survivability. We also grab block chance where we can. This is 3% block, this is 2% block. You have another 5% block here, another block here. You have this, we grabbed this actually early on, but it's for like mana leech, so you can sustain your cyclone because you're hitting like a madman really fast and you're going to burn your mana really quickly. You need some mana leech to actually sustain it. Later on you can switch to rings that have minus to total mana cost or minus mana to channeling skills. There is also that on the chest armor, but that way you can have zero cost cyclone later on, but that's outside of the scope for this build because we don't have money to actually make that happen here. Now let's take a look at skills, what we are using, starting with Cyclone on a 6 link. You really want, like in some order of importance, if it's going to be 5 link, you're going to drop melee physical damage. If it's 4 link, you're probably going to drop, well, depending if you have Astromantis, you have infused channeling. If you don't have Astromantis, you can still use it. Recommend getting Astromantis really soon. You can drop Brutality. Impale and Fortify are going to feel pretty nice, so I wouldn't really drop Impale in any case. So you can go Cyclone, already imported Cyclone, Impale, Fortify, Infused Channeling, then Brutality, then melee physical. You can also like toggle them here and figure out which one is actually giving you the most damage depending on your like skill tree scenario. Did you grab all the like impales and things like that? You can play around. I really invite you to kind of play around with Path of Building and figure out something like that I didn't tell you in the video. I don't have to tell you everything because you can play around with this stuff. Obviously my gems are not leveled to the maximum. This is what I kind of used during the in the example. I didn't want to use over level gems with all quality or maybe awakened gems because that would skew the results quite a bit. But once you kind of level up to actually have everything on level 20, so you would actually do quite a bit more damage. So you could level up your gems while you're kind of doing this. You can level them up. This would give you even more damage. I'm just saying, you're starting with that, you're going to end up near like 3 million damage. Once you kind of swap in for awakened gems, level 21 gems is going to go even further. But as an example, I really didn't want to push them any further. We can also like do like defaults here. I haven't like tried this default gem level. Maybe you have to have them. Yeah, I haven't tried this. This is interesting. I should see what this does. Either way, that is your main thing to have. Then we have either helmet or boots, wherever you want to socket them in. You will have to probably off-color them, so check that video that I did how to get any color that you want on any item, because it's going to be really hard to get red gems on a dexterity base or something like that, and you need 4 reds, so it's not like a nice thing, but it's pretty easy to actually get, and a lot of people don't know how to do this. Either way, you really want to have Flesh and Stone linked with Maim. This is going to give you lots and lots of damage, pretty juicy. Then a Dread Banner is really important for Impale, so you have kept Impale chance. And the last thing is Blood and Sand, which is pretty nice, but can be skipped, what I'm saying. Those 3 things have to be used. Blood and Sand is good, but if you wanna slot in something else. That's the only thing that can be actually removed. Other things are really going to beef up your damage. As like either helmet or boots, you want to have blood rage for sustaining your frenzies. You want to have Ancestral War Chief for additional damage. This is going to give you, I really recommend getting wall version because it's going to follow you around. It's going to give you 32% more physical damage while totem is active, which is really good. So doesn't say you have to stand near it. I thought you actually have to stay near it. Being near it grants you more melee damage. Yeah, you have to be near it. Okay, so 32% more melee damage while totem is near you, and wall version is going to jump and follow you around, basically attack anything inside. But if you're near it, you're going to do more damage. It's really good. The wall molten shell is really good for survival. You want to be spamming your regular molten shell all the time for extra survivability, and you want to keep your wall version for if you kind of can anticipate that you're going to get hit by something, then you pop wall molten shell. And just for being able to map properly, we have dash, so you can move around. You can probably switch to phase run in like endgame because you will know the layout of the map. You want to skip the layouts that need dash to actually be able to finish the map, so you want something like tropical island or something like that that's pretty linear, doesn't have anything that you need to dash over to, then you can use phase run. But in all other scenarios you probably want dash so you can finish the maps, and since I'm assuming that you cannot sustain one map and run just that one map, that's why I included dash. But in my other like variant, like that beefy endgame, I also have phase run for additional damage. And for the items, we already explained the Votos, Astrumentis, Cyclopean Coil. These are just like some rares with resists. Resists are more important, dexterity then, and life. So if you can get either dex or get resist, cap them, then get life or dex on them. If you can get life and dex, that's really nice. The same thing for boots, but on your boots you also want to have movement speed. So movement speed is high priority in boots, then resists if you don't have them, then dexterity, then life, or life if you want more life. But yeah, that's this kind of priority. Just buy any that works. You can even buy ones that are already linked if you wanna, if you kind of lucky there and find one that actually works for you. That's fine. For rings is the same deal. Cap resist, life, dexterity, and you should be fine. Second ring, same deal. For your flask, you want Lion's Roar for 24% more melee physical damage. It might be a bit less because it rolls from, I think, 20 to 24. But more physical damage means like your damage then multiplied like by 1.24. It's multiplicative basically, and it's increasing your damage by quite a bit. Every time you see something that says more melee physical damage means you really want to get that. You don't want to be losing more damage anywhere if you can help it. Then we have roomies for additional block chance for attack damage. It's going to give you a lot of block chance. These two do not actually stack armor, so only one is going to give you armor, but their other effects are really good, so that's why we are actually using 2 armor flasks, which is not a good thing to do, but in this scenario it's working. For your other flasks, I crafted the Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline on stream. It doesn't have to be Quicksilver of Adrenaline. You want ample Quicksilver, and then you can either have like Anti-Curse or Anti-Bleed Flask and have Adrenaline on a different flask with a bestiary craft. I should probably do some tutorial on how to craft flasks that could be really interesting, but you can also check that live stream that I did. If you cannot figure it out, stop by any live stream, ask me any question, and I will show you straight away there. It's somewhat better than to ask a comment in a question, because then I cannot really show you that. On live stream I can quickly just open something, craft some flask in a minute or two and show you how to kind of do something, and if you have some additional questions, I can answer them straight away there. Then we have a Basalt Flask for additional physical damage reduction, and this is anti-curse. It could be anti-bleed flask, but I recommend actually be anti-curse, because you want curses to kind of not interrupt you. Basically, that temporal change is really annoying on maps, so you don't want it to be on a life flask, because life flask, as soon as it gets to max health, it stops working. It's not going to give you anti-curse then. So for your life flask, you want bubbling. This means it's going to be instant heal flask. So it reduces amount recovered, increases recovery rate, and 50% of recovery applied instantly, basically. It's pretty good to have this kind of flask around, and having a bleed immunity on it, it's pretty good, because as soon as you hit it, you're going to stop the bleed and remove it. If you get inflicted by bleed again, you will have to press the flask again, but removing the bleed once usually does the job, so having anti-bleed life flask is a good idea. And I think we went over everything here in this POB. The POB is in the forum thread, so you can check. There is a forum thread with everything. You have that other build, that beefy one, you have this tutorial, you have example clears of bosses. Everything is going to be there, and I'm going to keep updating it. So guys, just grab this and do some maps. You're going to have so much fun with this. And this is all for today. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.